you know, my dad is in really bad shape. I don't think he's going to make it through the weekend. And that was in the middle of the afternoon. At night, he and Patty are up at the hospital. You know, my dad recognized him, and you know, that really meant a lot to him. And then, unfortunately, a couple of days later, he did pass away. And on the day of the viewing, so, you know, we're running around getting the final things all figured out. And in the middle of the day, it's a business day, and Tom calls me. Says, is everything okay? Are you okay? And I said, yeah, Tom, thanks so much for calling. I said, okay, that was it. I'll see you tonight. So I came to the viewing and jumped on a jet for Germany, and away he went. I will never forget it. I appreciate it more than words can say. And to me, you know, that's Christian values. And I think, you know, the three things I've spoken about, being, you know, competence, leadership with vision, Christian values, those are things that all Conwell Egan students and graduates, you know, should look to emulate, and which Tom so terrifically demonstrates day in and day out. So with that, Tom, you're up.
Well, thank you, Joe. I'm not sure what else I can say, but I have a few things that I'd like to share with you. First, I'd like to talk about Joe. My parents were from Pittsburgh, and we moved around a little bit when we were young, and ended up in Michigan for a few years, and we didn't know it at the time, but I hope nobody's here from Michigan. I don't mean to insult the school system, but when I came into the 7th grade in January of 1967, I quickly was behind. And I would, you know, when I reflect on my life, I've had just more blessings than 1,000 people deserve. And of course, having my parents was the first. But then this guy came into my life, and the way he did was just fate, really. Sister Rita Eileen, who we affectionately refer to as Bulldog, I believe, announced that Mr. Adler would tutor Mr. Lynch at lunch. And that began the start of a beautiful relationship. And Joe said we did all those things together, like we went to grade school together, and we went to high school together, we went to college together, but really I followed him, is what really happened. And he is, you know, if you look up what a good man is in the dictionary, his picture is there. So thank you, Ed, so much. What I thought I'd do is I wanted to just have two themes tonight. Kind of tell you about Conwell Egan and how it's woven through my life, and I think how it brought me back with some encouragement from some people I'm going to talk about in 2011, and then, you know, why it is important work and why it's far from done. So in 1967, my dad was always a huge football fan. One of the many gifts he gave our family was a love of sports, and it was in the September of '67 that I didn't really know. I was getting acclimated in the area. I didn't know about Michigan, but he did, because he knew about Michigan football even when he was in Michigan and Pennsylvania. And he took me to the game. Of course, you know, for those of you who played, you know, it must have been awesome. But I remember walking into that Neshaminy game, and oh my goodness. And then the second thought that went through my head is, well, I definitely am not going to be playing football for that team. And I was right. And then he told me, hey, this is where you're going to go to high school. So that was one of the many great decisions that my parents made for me. And then, of course, in September of '68, like so many of my friends here tonight, I had that awesome and intimidating experience of coming into Bishop Egan. And, you know, my first year, admittedly, wasn't really much to brag about from either athletics or academics. But more importantly, and your life is shaped by the people who are in it, I met two of my very best friends. Jack Roballo and John Sprandio, thanks for coming tonight. Jack and I flunked algebra, freshman algebra, first semester of high school together. We also got cut on the first day of basketball tryouts. But we persevered, didn't we, Jack? We got a raw deal. So I gradually got acclimated to high school, and then in the winter of 1970, my mother came to me and said, "Oh, you have a job." "Oh, I do." That was back in the days when your parents told you you had a job. You didn't negotiate with them. And I got a job at O'Boyle's restaurant in Bristol, and wow, 75%, at least 75% of the kids who worked there were, besides my mom, were Commonwealth. And so all these friendships really continued to deepen and blossom. So I'd just like a show of hand, all the O'Boyles.
Can we stand up?
Those here tonight. Thank you for So, this Commonwealth theme keeps going, but of course, the best thing about going to O'Boyle's, I didn't realize it in the winter of 1970. I didn't actually realize it until August of 1971, when I asked Patty Danaher out, because Joe Adler said, "Hey, I'm going out on a date. You want to double date to the Phillies games?" I said, "Sure." Fate intervened again, and I met the love of my life in August of 1971, and if that wasn't good enough, I had the great fortune of getting a whole other family, the Danahers, fantastic family, and guess what? They all went to Conwell. And then, of course, I'm the oldest in the family. I wish I was an 82 grad, as the book said. I'm a 72 grad. When I thought about it, I said, an 82 grad, I'm going to get up there and they're going to say, "God, he looks old." So the next time, make it a 62 grad. Then I'll really looks young. And my brothers and sisters here, and of course, my brother Larry, my brother Tim, my sister Sue, Lynch, and her husband Sal all went to Conwell, Oregon, and Barb Danaher, Rob Leto, and John Danaher, Jim Danaher, Judy Danaher Wolfram. So, this Conwell Egan thing, this theme runs through your life, and it's amazing when you get an award like this and you begin to reflect on your life, maybe in a different way than you have before. Things that maybe should have been obvious to you weren't, start to emerge, and you see how important this was to me. And then, of course, like most of us here, life intervenes, you get married, you have children, things change, and what was such a centerpiece of your life in the past begins to kind of drift away. And Conwell was a great memory, and as Joe said, Patty, the iron-fisted reunion queen. Thank God for it. And that was really kind of mostly what Conwell Egan was until 2011, when Jack Techman was renamed football coach. Hey, give Jack a call. Congratulations, Jack. Let me know if there's anything we can do to help. I was thinking maybe we'll buy a few helmets or something. And as they say, be careful what you wish for. And Jack said, "Well, by the way, yeah, we could do some shirts, but would you have dinner with a few of us and the new president, Janet Dollard?" And I'm not sure if you know, but the school isn't in such great shape. And before I'm not going to tell that story. I had a feeling Jim would tell it. He tells it so much better than I did. But I do want to digress to Jack for a second, because many of us know Jack and what Jack has done for people literally every day of his life. And he's just a force for good in the community. And so when somebody like Jack Techman kind of reaches out to you and asks you to help, it's important. And Jack, thank you. Where's Jack?
Over here.
Not just thank you for what you do every single day, but thank you for the gift you gave me when you asked me, because that, I'm serious. No, I'm serious. Because, you know, that was a transformational event for me. You know, it just was. And out of that event, not only came the work that you heard Jim describe so well, and boy, did we have some interesting times, Jim. There were a few midnight calls when, if you're out, I'm out. We weren't always never say die. And if we both said we're out, then Janet said, no, you're not out. We're fighting this to the bitter end, and thank God for her leadership. So thank you, Jack. So obviously this school's had a lot of influence on my life, and it's deep in my DNA. And so there's a sentimental tug for sure, but there's a transformational side. And so I appreciate everything it's meant to me, but now there's the reality. Right? So as I was getting ready for this, I wanted to reflect. You know, when we went to school, right, there was 3,000 kids almost between the two schools, and times were different and all that, and I get that. But there's also something that's pretty different as well. Back then, it was 1% of the average disposable income in Levittown to go to Catholic high school. It cost 1%. Now it's 12%. And yeah, that's reality. But what it means is we needed a different model. Right? The model of parishioners going to church and contributing, and the church providing the education, funding the high schools. Those days are gone. But the school can't go. The school has to stay. It's too important. And whether you're Catholic or not, it's essential to the community. It fits in a network in the community. And I mean, just think 22,000 kids have graduated from Egan, Bishop, Conway. And it's a pretty important contribution, not just to the community, but to the world. And so it's important work that we're all doing, and I hope you'll continue to support it so that we can keep another 22,000 going through the school, because it makes a difference. And it's very gratifying to be part of that. So just a few closing comments. You know, I talked about my mom and dad, and I want to thank them again for everything. And we're so happy you're here and sharing this moment with us. All my great friends here. You know, when I talk to people I work with, and you know, you travel. When you travel a lot like me, you talk to people about a lot of different things, and eventually you talk about each other in your lives. And when you tell people that your friends are like 40, 45 years, you've been with them 40, 45, 50 years, and it's not one or two, it's dozens. It's you realize how lucky you are, how lucky I am to have all that. So happy to give a little back. I want to thank my kids for coming here and being fantastic. Kevin and his wife Heather, Brian and his wife Pam, Colleen, her husband Chase is working, and Katie, her fiance. Katie's getting married in 2 months. Oh, I forgot one important thing. Part of the transformation that we went through, Patty and I, was this fantastic experience of working with the school really kind of set in place the next phase of our life. So we formed the Family Foundation, and we're really very active with it, and it's incredibly gratifying, and it's especially gratifying to know that our kids will carry that on after we're gone, and education, particularly Catholic education in Lower Bucks County, with schools like Conway and Holy Family are at the center of that. It's been a tremendous 4 years. It really has. Maddening at times, for sure, but mostly gratifying. And Jim said it, and he knows it firsthand from his daughter who goes to school. When you go up to the school, you definitely get smitten by